Good evening, Sector 001. I'm TJ Esnak, your host for the Jupiter Station podcast. And tonight's guest, in addition to her multiple horror movies, has managed to land in Star Trek land as Dr. Oak on Star Trek Picard Season 3. Tonight, please welcome Tiffany Shepis.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
It's always exciting to talk about anything Star Trek and horror, as you know, as you said. I'm happy to be here. What's up?
Sometimes the two go hand in hand.
They do go hand in hand, and I've noticed that the fans of the genres go hand in hand.
Absolutely. So I usually start off with kind of having my guests do a brief bio. Can you give us a background of Tiffany Shepis?
Oh, sure. Okay, so this is going to be a 19-hour show. You're going to have to do it in 80 parts because I started making movies when I was, 15 years old, 14 years old in New York City. Made a movie for a small company that's now kind of well known called Trauma. So any fans out there that loved schlocky, cult, crazy, ridiculous, over the top genre movies, you found your way to Trauma, definitely in the 80s and early 90s. And I made a movie for them called Tromeo and Juliet, which actually was James Gunn, who's gone on to do things like Guardians of the Galaxy and every giant, huge movie now. It was his first movie. I played Peter, the bodyguard to the Capulet family. So a very fun, physical role. And started making a lot of movies after that. Lots of Sci-Fi Channel movie of the night, kind of Friday night slashers and stuff like that. Popular one called Abominable with a lot of horror celebrities. Movie called The Scarecrow. Lots of things like Sharknado 2 and lots of voiceover work, things like Robot Chicken. So my career has spanned for a very long time in a lot of very small movies, but some that are thankfully loved by my fellow horror nerds. And then found my way to Star Trek, mostly via my husband, Sean Tretta, who was working on it.
That's always helpful.
Always helpful. That does not mean I didn't have to audition for it, which I did.
Oh,
But
I'm
like
certain.
you said, they go hand in hand. The genres really do. And for the last, 30 years that I've been making movies, every time I'm at a convention, it was like you'd see the guy with, the Freddy Krueger tattoo on one arm and, a Star Trek ship on the other. And it seemed like the fans really have kind of joined forces, like where it used to be, there would only be Star Trek conventions and Star Trek people would kind of stay in their lane and horror movie conventions were over here. It's now just a big melting pot of awesome fandom because I think everybody's realized that both are awesome and you can love both and you don't have to choose.
It's like people who argue Star Trek versus Star Wars. They're completely different yet similar.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And all of them have cool toys, which, I think at the end of the day, we all want, right? Like we all want really cool merch. We want cool t-shirts and horror movies, Star Trek, Star Wars. They've got it down and comic book stuff. So, and that's kind of where I started was like early comic books kind of being, dancing around being like Vampirella type characters at comic book conventions and thankfully fans I think recognized the nerd in me and were like, oh, we want to see her in more stuff because she's just like us.
So along that, let me ask you this. You're a self-described horror nerd. Would you also say that you were kind of a Star Trek fan, or was that more of an after Dr. Ock or Oak?
So Dr. Oak, TJ, come on. No, so I was definitely all about scary movies. I found a massive appreciation for Star Trek because it was like, how can you not? Like the world and the universe is so big and so vast and so many spin-offs of so many different shows and so many crossover things that it was like, holy crap, like how can you not be in admiration of what was built in that universe? But I would never have called myself a fan because I liked a lot more gore. Like I liked really over the top, bloody, gory, crazy, scary stuff. However, in preparation for Dr. Oak, going back and watching a lot of Star Trek, probably Star Trek Overload, I was like, oh, there's definitely scary stuff here. Like there's some tense moments, scary moments. And it really is like the who's who of actors when you go back and watch all of the different Star Treks, because you're like, whoa, that person's super famous now, or that person was famous and then went into the Star Trek universe. So it's I have now, I think, become the person who converts diehard horror people into the realm of Star Trek.
Serve a very important purpose for people like me then. Awesome.
Yes,
Um,
I am that one. I'm the shepherd that brings them to you now.
did you have a favorite show you were watching when you were researching, or?
Well, Deep Space Nine, but because of everybody's favorite Trill, Dax. So it was before I knew I was actually going to be a Trill. Like Dr. Oak was sort of just doctor. We're not sure what she's going to be, and I was like, "Oh, do I get to pick?" And they're like, "No." And, but then when Trill came about, I was like, "Please, please, 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 let me be a Trill. Please, let me be a Trill. Let me be a Dax. Let me be a Dax." And they're like, "You're not a Dax." And but I got to be a Trill, which I was very, very, very excited about, mostly because through the years of horror movies, all I've had was prosthetics. So many prosthetics, so many head molds that I was like, oh, I can't like finally get to Star Trek and like you're not going to recognize me. And so a Trill was like the perfect thing, because I also didn't want to be ordinary either. Like I wanted to be something cool, some type of alien, right? It's like it's either you want to be really some really, really cool alien or have a really cool death scene. So
Well,
Trilogy.
I think Todd Stashwick beat you out on that one.
He did. You know, sad for Todd, but yay for me. I'm still alive.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie. I might have gotten a little misty-eyed about that. I'm like, oh come on, I was just getting to like this guy. Seriously?
Well, it's an incredibly written character, and Todd did a great job portraying him. Like he's so cool. Like it's the guy that everybody wants to hang out with, but you also want to hate. And yeah, it's a shame we could not save him, but you know, he went down with great glory.
Well, I interviewed him about a year ago, and he said that if there's anything constant about Star Trek, it's they can find a way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, they can invent a way. Oh, darn, we had a copy of him left over in the transporter. Let's go ahead and pull him back out.
Absolutely.
Oops.
You don't know what Dr. Oak and Dr. Crusher did with his DNA when he was like, you know, you have no idea. We were, you know, some
That
craft
Dr. Crusher is not the same happy-go-lucky Dr. Crusher we used to know. She's pretty fierce now.
She's pretty fierce. She's pretty fierce. And, you know, I know Dr. Oak got a lot of hate for being mean to Dr. Crusher, but in fairness, they brought a lot of bullshit to our ship, man. You know, things were going swimmingly for us, and then they turned it upside down. Huh?
I've been on the receiving end of that. Oh, it's you.
Yeah, exactly.
I used to be an EMT, and we would send people to the ER, and inevitably you'd see that nurse who you've seen a million times before. Oh, it's you. Hi, nice to see you too.
So you understand Dr. Oak's plight.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That being said, if by some miracle we have like a Star Trek Legacy happen, or you know, a season 4, season 5 of Strange New Worlds, would you be willing to entertain an idea of maybe a character or a guest slot or something?
Get out of here. I would pay all the money in the world, hawk my, you know, Bride of Frankenstein prints, you know, give blood, Trill blood, human blood, doesn't matter.
Akiva, you heard that, right?
Of course. It was one of the coolest experiences. And even being, you know, a tiny connector part like Dr. Oak, was one of the highlights of my career. And I think I would have said that even if I had an actually great, grandiose, brilliant career, right? It's being part of something that is so beloved by people and really praying and hoping you don't F it up.
Well, for a while there, you got to be part of the bridge crew too, when the Titan was on the run.
I did. So, I mean, and I think that's like the fun part about Star Trek, right? Is like everything is a movable piece and everything can be believable. I mean, these people are smart, and it's like, you don't know where Dr. Oak had her training, right? So she could have easily have done comms. So it's like, there's just so many ways that you can fit stuff in and make all of that so fun. Although when I read that script, I was like, oh shit, excuse me. I was like, oh no, the bridge crew, like now I gotta research this. How would they do it? Like, so it doesn't look stupid. Yeah, I think it was fine.
On behalf of literally every other Star Trek fan in the world, we thank you for your research.
I tried.
You definitely got it right.
I can only hope. There was a question where I really tried to, oddly, and someone should do this. Maybe it should be you, TJ. Write some books about trills and the trill lore, because there's not a lot of information about trills. And at one point I was trying to research if trills even had red blood. Do they not? What kind of blood do they bleed? And we decided it was red. It's red blood. But
I saw quite a few of those pictures on Twitter of you after like the fist fight scenes, and oh, I got blood all over here, and oh, look at the blood dripping down from my head. And
exactly.
You were definitely all over the special effects department, I am sure.
I have a good time. It felt very at home over there.
You walk in, okay, so today when you make me bleed, make it believable. I mean, you got to make me bleed super bad, like from the head or something.
Really, really bad. Trills definitely bleed red. So just let's go for it.
Huh. So, horror Star Trek. Did you watch a lot of horror movies as a kid?
I did. I watched a lot of scary movies as a kid. I watch quite a few of them still as an adult. It's as a matter of fact, as an adult, my husband and I, with our 11-year-old son, who's very into horror films, we have a horror movie Friday night, and it has to be, it rotates on who gets to pick the movie, because we would consistently argue, because I have very, very different tastes than my husband. And our son thinks both of our tastes kind of suck. So we finally had to be like, all right, this Friday it's Sean's pick. This Friday it's Max's pick. The last one we watched was Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which was my pick. No one liked it as much as I did. And looking back on it now, for a modern take, it is really like unbelievable and kind of lame, because you're like, why doesn't she just yell out the window for help? Like, why is she throwing these stupid paper airplanes? But if you think back to the time that it was made, you're probably like, oh my God, that would have been terrifying.
Like when we were kids, because I'm not that much older than you. I'm 48. I'll be 49 in October. And
happy halfway to your birthday.
Well, there you go. Things like the Nightmare on Elm Street. We can look back at that and say, what? That's supposed to be scary? And
TJ,
laugh at it.
TJ, I'm about to mute and block you forever, because
no.
Nightmare on Elm Street is still holds up to this day. At least the first one does. And it is scary. And you cannot watch that movie alone in your house and look at your stairs the same way and not think they're going to turn into quicksand, because they definitely look like they're going to turn into quicksand. It is still terrifying. Although my son didn't seem to think so, but I think
he looked at saying, Mom, is this like, scary?
Well, because you know what he holds on to? He holds on to the scene where Freddy's walking in the alleyway and the arms stretch out really, really wide and it looks really goofy. So he holds on to that, like, that was so stupid, Mom, bro, that wasn't scary. And I'm like, but what about the rest of it? What about Tina in the body bag? All of those scenes still stick with me to this day, with like Tina's body getting dragged down the hallway after, like, the creepy chick's like, where's your pass? It's terrifying. Terrifying, TJ.
I mean, I'll give you that. The psychological component of it, that's definitely scary. I mean, the special effects probably tweak a little bit for certain people, but the psychological end of it is hands down probably the best.
It's amazing. That The Exorcist, terrifying. Poltergeist, terrifying. Nightbreed. All right, it's maybe not that terrifying, but really cool. Yeah. So, I mean, I grew up watching horror movies. That's what made me want to make movies in the first place. A little kind of rewind back to my bio was I was like a New York kid that made a couple short films here and there, and I was like modeling and stuff like that. But at the time when I was growing up in New York, there wasn't as many movies being made there. It was mostly kids that did theater. And I had done a few plays, but I was going to a school where a lot of the kids were actors. And I was like, oh, what are you guys looking at? And they were looking at a paper, which was called Backstage. And it's still around. It's just, I don't think it's in paper form anymore. And I looked and it was like, oh my God, they're casting for Tromeo and Juliet. That's Troma Studios. They made The Toxic Avenger. I have to go. And I looked, and this is like how long ago this was. There was just like a time, like you could show up, like an open casting. And so I cut school and I went to the audition, and I told them that I knew that they told me it was like a scene that involved a lot of stunts. I'm like, well, I know how to do stunts. I know jujitsu. I did not really know jujitsu. So that was my first foray into bullshitting your way into a job.
Yeah, I know jujitsu, sure.
Yeah, I totally. And so I took it even a step further. I didn't just know jujitsu. I was a black belt in jujitsu. Complete lie. Complete lie. So they're like, oh my God, we have to see these moves. So they bring in somebody from the production office, and I did some weird crap that I learned on watching TV. And thankfully they thought it was adorable enough, maybe, or bad enough. I'm not sure. And they were like, great, blah, blah, blah. I get a call a few days later and they're like, you've got the part, but like, they go, well, you are 18, right? And I was like, totally. I'm 19. Absolutely. So fast forward, TJ, I start to freak out going, oh my gosh, this is going to be my big break. And they're going to blacklist me from Hollywood if I don't, because I mean, I'm a kid. So these are the weird things that go through your mind. Oh, I'm going to be blacklisted from Hollywood and never going to work again. I may even go to jail. So I called them back and I'm like, hey guys, I got so excited by getting the part that I forgot how old I was. I'm not actually 19. I'm 17. Which was again a lie. So I don't know why I decided to tell the truth to lie again. Turns out it didn't matter. I made Romeo and Juliet, but that was my start into the universe of Troma. And from then on, kind of ran around, got flown to different countries to promote our movies. Did a lot of filming for the E! Channel. Back then it was called Wild on the Riviera. So I would host a lot of those segments about indie films, and all this at 16 years old was quite an adventure into that land. But growing up, after doing a lot of these, like you would get invited to these conventions, and that's kind of what brought me to the first time I remember like seeing Star Trek people. And I remember meeting William Shatner for the first time and being like, how is it, like, what is it like to be so famous and so beloved? And I remember seeing the people online for him were the nicest, most excited to be there of any people I'd ever seen. So it sort of started my love for Star Trek before being involved in Star Trek, and it was mostly by the fans, because they were all really cool and they all seemed to know each other, and they were all really excited for each other to get to meet some of their favorite stars.
I get very excited when I go to those things too. I'm a member of Star Trek fan club, and at 48, I think I can be secure enough in my adulthood and not living in my mom's basement that I can say, okay, yes, I am a member of this fan club. But learning that we have people within that fan club who are doctors, engineers, lawyers, pizza delivery people. Okay, it happens, but everybody needs to work. But the people within that club are probably the most open-minded people you'll ever meet. They are the most imaginative people you'll ever meet. And for the most part, there's not a bad bone in them, because obviously they wouldn't be fans of Star Trek if they didn't believe in the overall ethos that Gene Roddenberry put into it.
Yep. And I feel like that is really crossed over to like all kind of sort of genre people, right? Like, so the horror fans, even though they're tattooed up and wear black, and the same thing, the most accepting group of people. And I think for horror fans, it was mostly like a lot of people that were fans of something in particular were maybe, considered outsiders or different or othered in some way. And the genre sort of like embraced them in a big hug. It's like, no, you're not alone. You're just like us. And it's the same that I found with the Star Trek universe, is that we all just kind of want the same thing, right? Like you want the world to be a better place. You want to be accepting of everybody. And I see that within Star Trek stuff with like, different characters that interact with each other, and everybody's so accepting. And it's like, if we could just have that as a whole with our own world, we'd be in a really great place.
I couldn't agree with you more on that one. And especially with the shift we're seeing now, I'm kind of crossing my fingers that we still make it to that Roddenberry-esque future.
Dude, we have to have hope. And if there's anything that these shows and TV has taught us, there is that, right? And if you give up, then we've given up. We have to have hope, and we have to fight, and we have to fight for the future that we want to have. And I think there's enough of us that we can do it. I think we can do
Definitely.
it.
In fact, I think that there's a lot of the people within the Star Trek family, and I call it that because with all my guests, we've discussed the same exact thing. But once you're involved with anything Star Trek, you become part of that community, and that's a big, humongous family. And everybody has the same thing to say. It's like, it gives us hope. Like, it's not going to be like this forever, and we have to believe.
Yep. You have to believe. You got to stick with what you know is right, and what you feel is right in your heart and for your family, and don't give up on that, and don't give up on other people, and just kind of keep uplifting each other every which place that we can. And if you see somebody who's like going down that rabbit hole of like despair, pull them up, lift them up, and keep doing things for our community that we have in the past. Just do it a little harder and show up a little more and fight back. It's interesting that you talked about, like, all of us being a family. When I first walked onto the set as Dr. Oak, and like, I was aware I'm very, small character, not anything important, just sort of a connector piece for things. Yet Jonathan Frakes came up to me and he goes, "Dr. Oak," and he gave me this giant bear hug. And it really, like, even thinking about it now, like, tears you up, because it was like, that's exactly how he made the whole set and everyone that walked onto that set feel. And it made me hyper aware that that's this universe, right? Like, it doesn't matter how small of a part you are. It doesn't matter if you're on one episode or 100 episodes. You're all important in that piece. And he really couldn't have been a better supportive first time meet than meeting him. Like, he really should just like go to every set of every Star Trek and introduce himself and make everybody feel. He probably has.
He's directed quite a few episodes on a good chunk of the genre.
And I can see why they keep bringing him back, because of stuff like that. I mean, beyond being a great director, it's the way he makes people feel.
And I had the opportunity back in November. We had the Rhode Island Comic-Con, and I went as the director of recruiting for my fan club. And I had my red command uniform. I do own a green science and medical uniform, because I started out as my chapter's chief medical officer. Basically, I'm the diet guru. Yeah. In fact, I've got a picture I'll email you later of a turbo lift ride with you, me, and Captain Shaw. Like, I was visiting the Titan or something, and it's a great picture. But
wait, you were there?
No, well, technically, yes. But background erasers are a dangerous, dangerous toy I love. So that happened.
I love that. Please send it to me.
But I walked up to Jonathan's table at the con, and before I could even get a word out of my mouth, he looks over, he sees me in my uniform, he counts the number of pips on my collar and says, "Commander, come on over." And I'm sitting there like,
that's incredible.
The guy behind me is like, "Dude, is he talking to you?" I think so. Like, okay. And I walk up and, "Hey, Captain, what's going on?" And it was a really great conversation. He's very personable. I got the same vibe that you just mentioned. He's really nice and he makes everybody feel welcome. So
yeah,
that is definitely one of the interviews I'm looking forward to if I can finally navigate through his agent.
Well, I'm sure if he heard of it, he would absolutely do it. I think he's probably just such high demand because he is so incredible. He's a real bright light in that universe and as a human, it seemed. But there is something really incredible when you put those uniforms on for the first time, right? Like you instantly feel like, whoa, I am somewhere else. I am something special. And did you know that originally I was not supposed to play Dr. Oak? I was offered a part of a changeling and the changeling in that season of Picard. And it was like, oh, maybe she should play the changeling. And I read one of the scripts and I was like, oh, the changeling is so cool and gets like to fight. And I love that. And coming from my horror background. And I was like, but who plays Dr. Oak? And they were like, well, nobody yet. We haven't cast her, but it is a small part. I'm like, but Dr. Oak's in a lot of Star Trek. And I was like, small part, doesn't matter. Dr. Oak's Dr. Oak. And if I could be really mean, that would be really great. And they're like, well, you have to audition. And so I did. And that's how I came to be Dr. Oak.
And you're not even kidding. Like the uniform, I bought it as a 3X because I'm not a tiny person and did not realize that those sizes were not actually American sizes.
Yeah.
And it's Halloween and I have this costume and I said, damn it, I paid $50 for this entire ensemble. I am going to wear it. Yeah. And I squished myself into that costume. And it was very slimming because it's that Roman cotton. So it's like spandex. So it just kind of sucks everything. I'm like, there we go.
You feel great in them. When the first time I put it on, I'm like, why do I have to wear this lab coat over it? Can't Dr. Oak just be sexy? Because it's like, man, you look really good. It's like wearing a wetsuit.
That was the wrong episode. It had to be like the Next Generation and original series, the Naked Now, the Naked Time. They're drunk because of probes and spores and.
Oh, I would have been great in that.
Well, Tiffany, I hate to cut it short, but my other half has to catch a shuttlecraft to go get our son from work. But I really appreciate. Yeah, tell me about it. I really appreciate you taking time out. I'm going to end the recording here, and then I'll pop into the green room and kind of give you the deets real quick.
Well, hold on. Thank you so much for having me. This was super fun. I mostly ever get to talk about scary movies, but getting to talk to fellow Star Trek family is always a pleasure. And I am so excited. And we must meet in person, and you must wear that uniform so we can take a photo together.
Oh, most definitely. I'll be right back into the green room to talk to you for just a second. But thanks for joining us, Tiffany.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hello, Sector 001. The Jupiter Station podcast is made possible by the support and sponsorship of viewers like you. If you like what you see, then please consider supporting what you like. Our Patreon membership has a few different tiers to fit your budget. Go to patreon.com/Jupiter Station podcast today for more information and to sign up. Thank you.
Here at Jupiter Station, we've partnered with Purple Carrot to bring you the best in vegan foods. From meal kits and ready-to-eat foods to vegan grocery offerings, Purple Carrot has the healthy options you're looking for. Go to purplecarrot.com and use promo code TJ30 to get 30% off your order today.